Hey, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and I'm bringing you guys a review for Split Second, which is an arcade racer that released in May 2010, and it revolves around a fictional television show that gives racers money and glory for completing events in the game, which is pretty much just a means to an end to show a few flashy cutscenes here or there and give some purpose to the modes in the game, which there's a total of 72 events spread across 12 chapters, with multiple different modes found in each chapter. The modes include standard races, survival events in which you're dodging barrels, time trials in which you're dodging explosions among other things, and finally an air attack mode in which you're dodging missiles. A huge focus point of this game is just trying to make it to the finish line without blowing yourself up multiple times on the game's many obstacles. It did receive pretty good reviews and it has a Metacritic score of 84. Let's go ahead and find out if it's still worth picking up or not. I noticed a few technical issues as I was playing, such as my car sinking through the racetrack at one point all the way down to its roof, but overall the game ran pretty smooth and the frame rate stayed decent even during some of the more intense explosions. Speaking of which, the explosions, there's plenty of those to go around, as just about every bend and corner of the track can be triggered to cause some sort of impressive blast or dropped object to wreck whatever helpless cars in the way. One thing I really didn't like about this game is the generic car and truck designs and lack of detail in the vehicles, which was criticized in a lot of the reviews. The camera angle is also pretty low to the ground, and until you get familiar with the tracks, it can be sometimes difficult to determine which way to turn or where the border of the track is, but after you run a few laps, this issue is non-existent. This game has one pretty intense soundtrack. One song in particular really grabbed my attention, but they all fit really well with a racing game. The sound effects from the interactions with the track and the explosions were pretty good, but the car sound effects, such as the engines and the tires, could have used a bit more punch, as they were all somewhat bland compared to the other racing titles I've played over the last couple weeks. For a racing game, the cars have a generic look and bland sound, which is somewhat disappointing. I had made a joke about rubber banding AI the other day in a video, but to clear things up for those that aren't familiar with this term, it means that if you're ahead of the computer, it will always find a way to catch up to you, and if you're behind, it will always slow down a bit to let you catch up. Some racing titles such as Fuel are completely destroyed by this, and while this game does feature it and it causes some weird balancing issues in the races, it doesn't break the game or the fun. One problem it does cause is once you unlock the faster cars in the later chapters and you go back to the first few races in the game with the slower models competing against you, they can still keep up if not run faster than you, which is rather unusual and a bit unfair. While it doesn't break the game, it does alter the way you have to approach the races, as you always have to play defensively regardless of how well you can actually race, and it does take some of the skill away from mastering the game. You'll learn quickly to win most events you have to destroy the cars running near the front of the pack towards the end of the race, which creates a more strategic racing title but also cheapens the game a little bit in the process. Upon finishing this game, there's a to be continued that plays, but according to the wiki, the sequel for this game was scrapped by Disney, which is kind of surprising because of how well the game sold and the good reviews it received. The online multiplayer is still active, but in order to be able to compete online, you pretty much have to finish the single player first, as 9 out of the 10 players online are using the fastest cars on the game, which you have to unlock in single player. Overall, the game is a lot of fun at first, but it does start to lose its appeal halfway through the single player career, and playing online regardless of your skill level will most likely require a good bit of practice and patience, as some races come down to just dumb luck or one key triggered explosion on the final lap. Most big budget racing titles usually have a lot of reasons to keep playing, such as unlockables, car parts, or just the feeling that you're finally unlocking some car that you've been waiting on to smack the computer around, and this game really doesn't offer any of that. You do unlock the cars, but it just doesn't hold much weight because of the rubber banding AI, and is a big reason I can't recommend this title, even though it does provide brief, enjoyable, mindless destruction and fun. The game does feel a bit shallow, and with the amount of better arcade racers on the PS3 to play, offline or online, I'd recommend picking up a different racer over this one. Anyways, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and thanks for stopping by.